Welcome to today's explainer. Right off the bat, I want you to picture this with me. You're just standing there on a busy street corner, right? All of a sudden, you hear that unmistakable purr of a high-end engine, and this bright, shiny, red Ferrari just slowly rolls by. Now, what happens next? Well, people literally stop in their tracks. They stare, half the street whips out their phones to take a picture, you hear people whispering, "Man, what a beautiful car." We've all seen this happen or been a part of it. But have you ever stopped to wonder what's actually going on in our brains in that exact split second? Let's think critically about this for a second. When all those onlookers freeze and stare at that luxury car, what are they really looking at? Like, most of us just automatically assume that owning something that expensive, that flashy, is going to make people admire us. We think, hey, if I'm in that driver's seat, everyone is looking at me in total awe. We kind of fall into this trap of believing that the fancy car, the expensive designer watch, or the giant house is literally going to earn us the respect of everyone around us. But there is a huge disconnect here. See, the Ferrari owner has this one expectation. They're cruising around thinking the whole crowd is whispering about how incredibly successful and amazing they are. But the reality for the stranger on the sidewalk? Totally different. That person on the street isn't thinking about the driver at all, not even a little bit. They're just thinking, man, I wish I had a Ferrari. The attention isn't actually directed at the owner. The strangers on the street are really just projecting themselves straight into that driver's seat, imagining exactly how they would feel if they owned it. And this perfectly captures a really profound psychological truth introduced by Morgan Housel. It's called the man in the car paradox. Basically, it states that people usually don't admire the owner of expensive things, they simply imagine themselves owning those exact same things. So the attention, it's almost never about you, the owner. It's entirely about what the object represents to the observer. In this scenario, the actual driver of the Ferrari becomes, well, practically invisible. Honestly, just understanding this simple truth can literally save you from years of pointless, unnecessary spending. Section 1, the illusion of status, why we buy to impress. So, if the driver is basically invisible, why on earth do we all still desperately want the Ferrari? Well, it boils down to a core human desire. We naturally crave appreciation, respect, and acceptance from our peers. It's just hardwired into our DNA to want to signal our value to the tribe. Think about things like a premium smartphone, a luxury watch, those branded shoes, or a brand new car. Be totally honest with yourself for a second here. Think back to your very last expensive purchase. Sure, the quality matters, absolutely. But didn't a tiny, small part of you also kind of hope somebody else would notice it? Hey, it's completely okay to admit it. Most of us do this. We want others to see our success. But here is exactly where things go off the rails. We start to confuse expensive possessions with our actual personal value. It's a fundamental flaw in the way we think today. We essentially substitute material things for real, genuine respect. We trick ourselves into thinking that by upgrading our stuff, we're somehow upgrading our actual worth as a human being in the eyes of society. We end up buying these items because of what they seem to promise us: respect, recognition, success, confidence, acceptance. But the truth? Very few people actually want the heavy metal of a fancy watch or the leather of a designer bag just for the sake of the material itself. What they desperately want are the feelings those objects supposedly deliver. We're essentially trying to buy a shortcut to respect and confidence. But possessions? Yeah, they rarely, if ever, actually deliver those feelings for very long. And nowadays, we have a massive amplifier for this whole illusion: social media. Every single day, we're scrolling through pictures of luxury vacations, designer clothes, and these seemingly perfect lifestyles. It makes it feel like literally everyone else is living an extraordinary life. But you have to remember, you're only seeing carefully selected moments. It's just a highlight reel. Behind every single one of those perfect curated photos could be immense stress, crushing debt, loneliness, or severe sacrifice. You can never compare your actual, messy, real life to someone else's polished highlight reel. Section 2. The hidden costs. The trap of chasing status. Because trying to maintain this outward illusion of success isn't just psychologically exhausting, it's incredibly dangerous financially. Let's walk through this vicious cycle. You might know it as lifestyle creep. So step 1, you earn a higher salary. Fantastic. But instead of saving or investing that money, you jump straight to step 2. You immediately upgrade your house, your car, the brands you wear. Which inevitably leads to step 3, where your monthly expenses rise right alongside that new income. And that dumps you directly into step 4, becoming completely financially trapped. You might look incredibly successful to the outside world, but behind the scenes, your lifestyle now depends entirely on keeping up that exact same high income, just to keep your head above water.
Status often has hidden costs, while freedom rarely does. Just think about the person trapped in that four-step cycle we just talked about. If their income drops even a little bit, the stress kicks in immediately. That luxury car and the massive house suddenly turn into a fragile, terrifying cage. They've essentially traded their peace of mind for the sheer appearance of wealth.
Section 3. What truly earns admiration, the reality of respect. Okay, so if buying expensive things just traps us in a cage of debt and doesn't even make people admire us, what actually does? What generates real, lasting admiration? Think about the people in your own life that you genuinely look up to. Are they the ones with the biggest houses? Probably not. I'm guessing they're honest, hardworking, and compassionate. Maybe they're incredibly reliable, confident, or generous. That right there, that is the source code for true admiration. And notice something incredibly important about every single one of those qualities. Not a single one can be purchased in a store. You cannot swipe a credit card to get integrity or compassion. They have to be built slowly, day by day, over time. And that brings us to a beautiful realization. Character creates lasting respect. It's enduring, it's unshakable, and you know what? It completely survives economic downturns. Possessions, on the other hand, only ever create temporary attention. Think back to that Ferrari driving by. People stare for what, maybe 10 seconds? And then they go right back to their lives. The attention is entirely fleeting and shallow. Simply put, no luxury brand will ever be able to replace genuine character. So instead of blowing money to look successful, what if we invested in things that quietly improve our lives? I'm talking about things like knowledge, health, relationships, skills, experiences, and of course, savings. Now, these investments are largely invisible. When you transfer money into a savings account or spend your whole weekend reading a book to learn a new skill, you aren't exactly going to get a standing ovation from strangers on the street. But these are the exact building blocks of a deeply meaningful and resilient life. Section 4. The freedom of not caring. Taking back control. Taking back control of your finances and honestly your mindset reveals the ultimate solution to this whole paradox. Because once you finally understand that people aren't really admiring you for your stuff anyway, it unlocks this massive superpower. Ready? You don't need to impress everyone. Let that sink in. One of the greatest feelings of financial freedom in the world comes from this exact realization. Because once you stop buying things just to gain the approval of others, your financial decisions become incredibly easy. You can finally spend intentionally, save confidently, and most importantly, you completely stop living your life based on other people's opinions. To actually put this into practice, I want you to try something. Before you make any non-essential purchase this week, ask yourself, am I buying this because I truly need it or because I'm hoping someone else is going to notice? You've got to be brutally honest with yourself here. If the answer is the latter, you're just falling right back into the paradox. Then, I want you to follow that up with a second question. Will this purchase actually improve my real life, or will it simply improve my image? I'm going to pause for a second so you can really let that register. Separating your actual lived experience from your projected image is the absolute secret to keeping your money in your bank account instead of spending it on things you don't really care about just to impress people who aren't even looking at you. The core takeaway from today's explainer is simple. Real respect comes from who you are, not what you own. The happiest and most financially successful people deeply understand this. They prioritize their future freedom way above their current appearances. They invest in themselves, not their image. Because when your self-worth no longer depends on other people's opinions, you unlock true confidence. And as they say, confidence never goes out of style. I want to leave you with this really powerful thought from Morgan Housel. People don't admire your possessions as much as you think. They imagine owning them themselves. So the next time you go to swipe your card, ask yourself, are you building your own financial freedom, or are you just buying a prop for someone else's daydream? Something to think about. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.